Hi, I'm Tinny from minibulldesign, and today I'm out here in the woodshed. I've been splitting up some wood and taking it out to the factory. It works better if you split it up some for that stove. That stove, when you first start it off, you need small wood, and then once it gets going, you can put anything in. So I'm stocking up on the small stuff because I have to start a fire every morning. Now, I'm going to take a few minutes here and talk about the contest. Contest is for me is a double-edged sword, because if I just let this keep going the way it is, I'm just going to keep receiving these pictures of over and over and over again the old early 1900s cast iron and brass spirit burners that were made for like a base camp or maybe even cooking in a kitchen. Great big copper tanks on them and all that. And we both know, anybody that thinks about it, that's not what I'm looking for an alcohol remote feed stove. Now, the problem here is, if I'm more specific, people will accuse me of changing the rules in midstream. Whereas if I don't be more specific, I won't get what I'm looking for. And since it's my contest, I kind of like to have it go the way I originally intended it. So, here we go. I'm not looking for any remote feed stove, because I didn't invent the remote feed. The remote feed is something that's been around back in the pyramids. When I was a kid, the next door neighbors had a big range that was a pot burner and cooker that ran on kerosene, and it had a copper line that ran over maybe 5 or 6 feet away from the stove to a big, like 5-gallon tank with a valve on it. You'd fill the tank and then put it in like a chicken water thing, and it would depress the little valve on it, and the kerosene would run out into the tank. And as the stove used it, every now and then you'd hear that tank go ka-blook, ka-blook. That's remote feed, and that's been around since the beginning of time. I didn't invent that. What I invented was, or adapted was, the remote feed to ultralight backpacking stoves. That's my claim to fame. I invented the remote feed ultralight backpacking stove. Even more modern is like the Whisperlight, those multi-fuel stoves that could burn alcohol, had a remote tank you pumped up. I didn't invent that, and that to some degree is a remote feed stove, although pressurized. What I'm looking for is examples of gravity feed, or not even gravity feed, of remote feed alcohol stove for backpacking. Ultralight stoves that have a remote feed, either made from a soda can or whatever, either wick or the regular type like a BIOS or an Elite or something like that that's remote feed. Similar to the ones that I sell. I want to know if anybody came up with that idea and actually produced it and perfected it before me. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is, I feel that that's probably one of my biggest contributions to the ultralight backpacking industry. And I'd like to be able to say it now and then and not have somebody immediately call me a liar. I want this to be the end of it. When we're done here, I want proof that I was the first one to adapt remote feed to an ultralight backpacking stove. That's what I want. Now, for an example of how this works, this is a pattern that works with everything. The Dyson cyclonic vacuum that Dyson sells, he didn't invent the cyclonic concept. He was working as a young man in a grain elevator, and they had a cyclonic, great big huge grain elevator that spun things and separated the grain from the dust. And that's where he saw the cyclonic concept, just like me and the kerosene stove. Now, he took that idea when he got older and adapted it to a home vacuum, just like I adapted the remote feed kerosene to an ultralight backpacking stove. Now, if you say cyclonic home vacuum, that's Dyson's invention. If you say ultralight backpacking remote alcohol stove, that's my invention. And just like Dyson, after he started selling it Hoover and everybody else copied it. They've all got a more or less cyclonic vacuum that they sell, and none of them admits that they got it from Dyson, which is pretty much outwardly obvious because they even look the same. And after I invented the remote feed ultralight backpacking stove, everybody copied it. Anybody that sells a stove of any degree, Robbie or Zelf or anybody, has a remote feed backpacking stove, which is a copy of my original remote feed ultralight backpacking stove. It's just the natural progress of the thing. Everybody does it. Doesn't matter whether it's Polaroid or Kodak or Hoover or who it is. If it's a good idea, people will copy it, and that's a good thing. I don't have a problem with people copying that. And like everybody else, Hoover never is going to admit they got the idea from Dyson, although anybody with a half a brain would take one look at it and know immediately that they did. They're just not going to admit it. And nobody's going to admit they got their remote feed idea from me. That's just the way the world works. I don't have a problem with that. That's just the way things work. You know, it's absolutely a compliment that they thought the idea was so good they decided to copy it. Not a problem at all. It's just the way it goes. So what I'm looking for, and with the danger of being accused of changing the rules yet again because I have an agenda, I'm looking for ultralight backpacking stoves with a remote feed before October 2008. Now, I have gotten a few since I've narrowed things up, but neither one of them were perfected models that would work. They were both doomed for failure. They weren't a good design, but the people were trying. One of them is a soda can stove with a copper tube coming out of the top of it, which I wouldn't want to light it because it's definitely going to melt. There's a plastic tube on the end of the copper tube. They're not going to work. And the other one is a two tubes running down to a metal burner with a big copper tank with a valve on it. Neither one of them are very good designs. Neither one of them will actually work, and neither one of them is even remotely usable for a backpacking environment. Also, these stoves that fold, these metal stoves that fold up, that are like base camp stoves, like a Coleman fuel stove that have the tank that you pump. Those are not backpacking stoves. Those are base camp stoves or camping stoves. I'm looking for backpacking stoves, ultralight backpacking stoves, remote feed before October 2008. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot more email of people, and people are going to comment and say that I'm changing the rules. Now, I'm not changing the rules. I'm just refining the rules so we can get where I want to go. And since this is my contest, I know where I want it to go. And having not done this before, I didn't realize it was going to take these side rows. And I'm just pulling everybody back and heading them in the right direction. So when we get all done, either I invented the ultralight alcohol remote feed backpacking stove, or somebody else did. But when this is all done, I'll either have established and proven that I invented it, or somebody will prove that I didn't. And I hope somebody does prove that I didn't. It'd be interesting to see who actually did come up with the idea. That would be cool. So I'm still looking for somebody to give this squirrel cage to. So put your best foot forward, and I hope this information has narrowed things up for you and made it a little clearer. I'm Tinny from minibulldesign. Get out and hike, take a friend, enjoy the great outdoors, and more important than anything, try to have some fun today, and try to have a really great day. And I still have some of the Jewel Thief circuit boards available. If you want one, email me. Bye-bye.